Picture this. You lock in a dive DPS. You see an opening in the enemy backline, and you go in. You try again. Eventually you decide dive just isn't for you. But what if I told you dive isn't chaos? It's an art. And like any painting, anyone can learn how to create one. Hi, my name is Moth Ross, and I'm here to teach you the joy of diving. Now grab your paintbrushes, your colors, and a canvas, and come join me. Let's go ahead and explain what dive is. Dive is a playstyle where you're often the player looking to create engagements from openings the enemy team gives you. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine two players looking at the exact same invisible woman. Player 1 notices she uses her escape tool too early. Recognizing that opening, they engage and punish her. Player 2 sees the same invisible woman and dives her while every cooldown is available. Both players are diving, both players are engaging the same target, yet one diver has a much higher chance of success than the other. The difference isn't mechanics, the difference is opportunity. And that is what makes dive so fascinating. Because every game is a new canvas. The hero changes, the map changes, the matchups change, and the opportunities change. As a dive player, our job is not to force a painting onto the canvas. Our job is to recognize the painting that's already there and bring it to life.
And now that we have our canvas, let's go ahead and talk about the colors.
As a dive player, we're constantly looking for opportunities. The more colors we have available to us, the easier it becomes to create a masterpiece. One of the best colors is enemy positioning. An isolated target is a dive player's dream. When an enemy support drifts too far away from their team, or a DPS takes an off angle alone, it creates an opportunity. Not only does this give an easier fight, but also forces the enemy team to make a choice. They can either respond and give us space, or they can ignore us and run the risk of losing a teammate. Another excellent color is health advantage. A support hanging on by a thread is a much more appealing target than a full health white fox. Why spend resources trying to force an elimination when the enemy team has already started painting the picture for you? My personal favorite color is enemy cooldowns. Whenever I see a Luna Snow use freeze, a Cloak and Dagger use fade, or an invisible woman use her jump, those abilities exist to keep them safe, and the moment they're gone, an opportunity appears. The enemy team may not realize the mistake they have made, but a good dive player certainly does.
Another color I like to use is distractions.
When the enemy tank is busy dealing with the rampaging dino, and their DPS focus on the front line, their attention is somewhere else. That's your invitation. Use that distraction to become part of the painting. Force them to turn around and deal with you, or continue looking forward and run the risk of losing their backline entirely. These are only a few colors available to us, but hopefully you're starting to see the pattern. Good dive players aren't randomly jumping into fights. They're constantly looking for an opportunity hidden across the canvas and combining them together to create something beautiful. We have our canvas, we have our colors, but how do we put them together? This is the part where our brushes come into play, macro and micro. Let's paint a scenario. You notice an invisible woman use her jump to avoid another player that's one of our colors. We know she's vulnerable, but there's a problem. You're on the other side of the map. By the time you get there, her cooldown is back and the opportunity is gone. The color was there, you just weren't in the right position to use it. That's where macro comes in. Macro is everything that happens before the fight. It's putting yourself in the right place at the right time and in the condition to capitalize on the opportunity. You can't paint what you can't reach. The same applies to your condition. If you're low health, missing important cooldowns, or taking a poor route into the fight, you'll often be unable to take advantage of the opportunities you may find. That's why health pack knowledge is so important for dive players. Knowing where those resources are allows you to stay active, stay healthy, and stay in a position for when the next opportunity appears. Now, let's talk micro. Micro is everything that happens once the fight begins. Using the same invisible woman example, let's say you're already in a position. You engage to secure the elimination, and now the fight becomes a series of tiny decisions. Where is the enemy DPS? Which cooldowns have been used? How much health do I have left? Can I continue fighting? Or is it time to escape? These moment-to-moment decisions are micro. Macro gets you to the painting. Micro determines how you paint it. Macro is the large brush strokes that shapes the picture. Micro is the finer details that brings the painting to life. Both are important. A player with amazing micro but poor macro takes impossible fights, and a player with great macro but weak micro finds opportunities but struggles to capitalize on them. The best dive players learn a little bit of both. Now, with every great painting has a few mistakes, and every dive player has a few deaths. Trust me, when I was first learning Black Cat, I spent more time looking at the respawn screen than the enemy team. Every dive player misses opportunities, every dive player misjudges the situation, and every dive player eventually finds themselves staring at the canvas, wondering what just happened. The difference isn't that great dive players never make mistakes. No. The difference is that through thousands of mistakes, they've learned to make fewer of them. Maybe you thought the support wasn't as isolated as they were. Maybe you didn't notice an important cooldown. Maybe you got a little too excited and forced a fight that just wasn't there. These aren't failures. They're happy little mistakes. They're lessons to remember. Every game is a new canvas. Sometimes your paint doesn't come out the way you imagine, and that's okay. We don't throw the brush away. We learn from it and start the next painting. Dive isn't about perfection. It's about improvement, because confidence isn't built from never falling. It's built from learning that you can recover from failure and try again. Every dive player that's ever started has stumbled and made a few mistakes, but mistakes are learning, improving, one painting at a time. Now, my favorite thing about dive is that no two artists paint the exact same thing. Some dive players are incredibly aggressive. Some are constantly looking for opportunities and pushing the limits of what they can get away with. Others are patient. They wait for the perfect moment and strike when opportunity is available. Neither approach is automatically right or wrong. They're just different styles. Take Black Cat and Black Panther for example. Both are dive heroes. Both are looking for opportunities, yet their approach often comes differently. The fundamental remains the same. Recognize opportunities, position correctly, managing your resources. The way you express those fundamentals can be uniquely yours. You're not learning how to become someone else. You're learning how to become a better version of yourself. My style has always been leaning towards calculated aggression. I love finding small openings and turning the fight into a winning play. Every artist develops their own style. Every dive player does too. Now, before we finish and you go off creating your own paintings, I want to give you 3 things that you can immediately start doing. Think of these as your first brushstrokes. Number 1. Dive majority of isolated targets. If an enemy is standing next to 4 teammates, they're probably not the best target. Look for players who have separated themselves from their team. Those are often the easiest opportunities to punish. Number 2, track important cooldowns. Not everything, just a few. Maybe it's an invisible woman jump. Maybe it's a cloak and dagger fade. Maybe it's Luna using her clap. All of these are important opportunities that you want to use. You'll be surprised how many times this happens. And number 3, always know an escape route. Before you go in, ask yourself the simple question: how am I getting out? Knowing where health packs are located, where your team is positioned, or which cooldowns you're saving for an escape can be the difference between a successful dive and a long walk back from spawn. Master these 3 habits and you'll already be ahead of a lot of players trying to learn dive. Dive isn't reserved for gifted players. It isn't a secret club that only mechanical geniuses are allowed in. Dive is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. Will you make mistakes? Absolutely. Will some paintings look better than other ones? Of course. But every great artist starts somewhere, and every great dive player does too. And this is only the beginning. In future videos, we'll dive deeper into rotations, cooldown management, target priority, matchups, health pack controls, hero-specific interactions, and everything else that goes into mastering the art of dive. As for me, I'm going to continue my journey of learning and mastering every dive DPS so I can give you the best information. Because no matter how much I learn, there's always another painting waiting to be created. So pick up your brush, find your colors, and go create a masterpiece you're proud of. God bless.